The crime that shook Goulburn. If you think you're ready for the darkest corner of Australia's prison system, hit subscribe now. Because once we open this door, there's no going back. The night everything changed began with the sound of shattering glass. A high-end jewelry store in Sydney's CBD flickered, with alarms as masked intruders sprinted across polished floors, sweeping diamonds worth millions into heavy black duffel bags. What looked like a slick, professional heist spiraled into chaos when one of the thieves fired a warning shot into the ceiling. The bullet ricocheted, struck a guard in the shoulder, and turned a clean escape into a manhunt spanning 3 states. At the center of it all was a name that had echoed through Sydney's criminal underworld for years: Darius Cade, a former street enforcer turned gang coordinator. Darius wasn't just known for his violent streak. He was known for outsmarting people who underestimated him. Police claimed he could vanish into a crowd like smoke, leaving investigators staring at a man-shaped shadow with no trail. But this time, the shadow slipped. A grainy CCTV clip captured the moment. As the gang fled the store, one figure hesitated for half a second, long enough for a single beam of streetlight to catch the half-healed scar across his jawline. Detectives recognized it immediately. Darius Cade was no ghost tonight. He was a marked man. Sydney police launched a citywide lockdown, and within hours, highways were crawling with tactical vehicles, drones sweeping rooftops, and checkpoints choking the streets. The heist crew split up to avoid capture. 2 were arrested at a truck stop, another in a motel outside Liverpool. But Darius evaded every dragnet, slipping deeper into the suburbs like he'd rehearsed the route 1,000 times. What investigators didn't know, not yet, was that Darius' plan had never been to escape the country or disappear permanently. His route led him somewhere far more dangerous: the basement level of an abandoned textile factory in Granville, a place he once used as a safe house, and the last place anyone would expect him to hide. Detective Sarah Holt, one of the lead investigators, wasn't convinced by the unfolding reports. Something felt wrong. The jewelry heist was too sloppy for Darius, too chaotic for a man who built his reputation on precision. And the scar the cameras caught, it wasn't new. It wasn't even healing. It was old, familiar, almost staged. She replayed the footage more than a dozen times. The hesitation, the lighting, the angle. And then she noticed it, a glint on the robber's wrist, not a bracelet, not a watch. A police-issued ankle monitor. But Darius had cut his off months earlier. The man in the footage wasn't Darius. He was someone wearing Darius clothes, mimicking his movements, baiting investigators. When Sarah brought her concerns to the task force, she was met with skepticism. The city was on edge. The press demanded answers. And with millions in stolen diamonds missing, the public wanted someone in handcuffs, fast. For Sarah, the fake identity was the first clue that the heist wasn't about theft at all. It was about misdirection. While the task force tightened the net around Granville, a silent alarm triggered 10 kilometers away at a private residence in Vaucluse, the home of Marco Vescari, a notorious loan shark. By the time officers arrived, they found Vescari bound to a chair, bruised and terrified. On the table beside him was a USB drive. No fingerprints. No notes. Just a single drive containing financial logs, payout lists, and encrypted messages, all pointing to someone dismantling Vescari's operation from the inside. And every file was labeled with the same 3 letters: DK. The revelation snapped everything into place. Darius wasn't hiding. He wasn't fleeing. He was hunting. Back at the abandoned textile factory, tactical units broke down the rusted door, expecting a firefight. Instead, they found a dimly lit room, a mattress on the floor, empty water bottles, and a corkboard covered in photos, maps, and handwritten notes, all pointing to corrupt police officers, gang financiers, and Vescari's associates. Darius wasn't running from the law. He was exposing it. But then officers found something that froze the room cold. A burner phone left intentionally in plain sight, vibrating across the tabletop with a single incoming message. A live location pin, pulsing, waiting. The message underneath read, "You're too late. Check the basement." No one wanted to open, the heavy metal door at the end of the hall. The lock was snapped clean, like someone wanted them to find whatever waited inside. The silence felt unnatural, heavy, like the building itself was holding its breath. They pushed the door open, and what they found changed everything. The legend inside the cage. The corridor outside cell 23 had never been so quiet. Guards later said they could feel the air vibrate, like the entire Supermax was holding its breath. Because inside that narrow concrete box, Leon Mercer, the man the media now whispered about like a ghost story, was beginning his transformation. His first weeks in Goulburn were designed to break him. 22 hours a day alone. Lights that never fully turned off. Strip searches after every movement. Meals slid through a metal hatch. Silence, so thick it could crush bones. But Leon didn't collapse. He observed. He waited. He counted every footstep, every guard rotation, every echo in the walls, as if the prison itself was giving him instructions. While most inmates deteriorated, Leon sharpened. Word traveled through the cells faster than contraband ever could. The new arrival wasn't losing his mind like the others. He was adapting, hardening, building something inside those walls. And inmates, even the most violent ones, began to talk about him like he wasn't just another criminal, but something else, a strategist, a survivor, a man already thinking 10 moves ahead. The guards noticed too. On his 37th day, Leon received his first visitor, Detective Caldwell. He walked into the interview room like a man entering a lion's den. Leon sat chained to the steel table, his expression unreadable. Caldwell placed a folder on the table and leaned forward. "You know why I'm here," he said quietly. Leon didn't blink. "You're here because you think the job isn't finished." "And is it?" Leon smiled, just barely. "Depends what you think the job was." Caldwell felt something tighten in his chest. When he opened the folder, he revealed the photograph inside. The storage locker discovered the night of Leon's arrest. It was cleaned out, completely empty. "Your men didn't take anything from that locker," Caldwell said. "Which means someone else did. Someone who knew exactly what we would find." Leon's eyes stayed locked on him. "Careful, detective. The moment you start believing I'm the only problem, you're already losing." Caldwell hated the answer. Because Leon wasn't wrong. That locker was supposed to contain the digital backups of the embezzlement scheme, the files that had destroyed real families across Sydney. But the drives weren't there. Someone had beaten the police to them, and whoever it was had erased every trace. The case wasn't clean, not even close. Back in his cell, Leon's routine changed. He began receiving letters, dozens of them. Some from former associates, some from strangers, some from people who admired him for reasons law enforcement refused to say aloud. The guards intercepted most of them, but even the few that got through were enough. Leon read them slowly, memorizing the names, building connections, sewing together the scraps of a growing reputation. A legend was forming brick by brick. The warden attempted to cut contact. He ordered stricter surveillance, restricted Leon's mail, even tried to move him into a more isolated wing. But something unexpected happened. When they relocated him, unrest spread through the block. Inmates slammed their doors. One refused food for 3 days. Another tried to flood his cell. None of them knew Leon personally, but the myth of him, the man who didn't break, had become bigger than the man himself. Supermax officials decided to move him back. It was safer. The detective's suspicions grew darker by the day. Caldwell visited Leon again. "You didn't do this alone," he said. "Someone on the outside cleaned up after you. Someone who wanted you silenced. Who is it?" Leon leaned back, his chains clinking softly. "If I tell you," he murmured, "you'll be dead before you leave this room." Caldwell froze. It wasn't a threat. It was a calculation, a fact. Something else was going on, far beyond Leon's crimes. Something he wasn't talking about, not out of loyalty, but out of survival. Every new clue in the investigation pointed to an unseen figure. Someone wealthy, someone powerful, someone who could reach into a maximum security prison and move pieces like they were part of a game. The turning point came when a guard, Officer Hargreaves, was caught trying to slip Leon a second meal tray. Inside it was a small note, scribbled in tiny pencil marks. They know about Caldwell. Move soon. The prison went into lockdown within seconds. Leon was dragged from his cell, restrained, and interrogated. Every question he answered with the same chilling calm. I didn't write it. I didn't ask for it. But you should listen to it. The warden slammed his fist on the table. What does it mean? Leon leaned forward, lowering his voice. It means the person you're hunting isn't me. Outside the room, alarms blared through Goulburn's concrete corridors, a sound that echoed like a warning. Because something was coming. Something bigger than Leon Mercer. Something that would tear open the truth behind his rise to power and expose the person pulling the strings. And before the night ended, Detective Caldwell would make a discovery that would change the investigation forever. A discovery waiting behind the door to Leon's sealed property locker. A locker no one had dared open since the day he arrived. The locker, the lie, and the legend. The metal door to Leon Mercer's sealed property locker groaned like something alive when Detective Caldwell forced it open. Dust drifted through his flashlight beam, settling on the concrete like falling ash. Inside, he expected the obvious: clothes, a wallet, maybe a few personal effects. But what sat in the center of the locker was a single object. A thick manila envelope. Unmarked. Untouched. Caldwell hesitated. His instincts screamed that this was wrong, that nothing in Leon Mercer's orbit ever appeared by accident. Still, he tugged on a pair of gloves and opened it. Inside were photographs. Rows of them. Not crime scene photos. Not surveillance images. These were pictures of men, powerful men, politicians, executives, public figures, all photographed in discreet locations Caldwell recognized as meeting spots for backdoor deals and off-the-books transactions. Every man in those photos had been connected to Leon's embezzlement case in some way, but never officially, never publicly. And in the very last photo, circled in red marker, stood someone Caldwell knew too well. Deputy Commissioner Reese, his own superior. Caldwell's breath turned to ice in his chest. The message was clear. Leon wasn't the mastermind. He was a liability, someone who knew too much, someone who had become too dangerous to keep on the outside. And someone was trying very hard to make sure he never talked. Caldwell sealed the envelope again and walked out of the evidence wing with a single horrifying truth ringing in his mind. Leon Mercer had been framed for a crime that was bigger than him, but he was valuable because he was the only one who could expose who was truly behind it. Back in Goulburn Supermax, Leon sat chained during another interrogation, but this time, for additional officers, stood guard at the walls. The tension felt flammable. Caldwell entered the room, placed the sealed envelope on the table, and locked eyes with Leon. You wanted me to find this. Leon leaned forward, expression unreadable. I wanted someone to find it. You're the only one who bothered. Caldwell slid the envelope forward. These photos, this isn't just evidence. This is leverage. Leon exhaled, slow and controlled. The people who ran the scheme needed someone to take the fall. Someone with a name that sounded dangerous enough to distract the public. And I was a convenient villain. Caldwell's jaw clenched. You benefited too. Yes, Leon admitted. But that doesn't mean I built the machine. I was just smart enough to see how it worked. Caldwell remembered the note smuggled in the meal tray. They know about Caldwell. He swallowed. They're coming after me next. Leon didn't disagree. He simply looked at him with something surprisingly close to pity. That night, the prison erupted. A fire alarm blared in Sector C, the wing nearest Leon's block. Smoke pumped through the vents as guards scrambled to seal off corridors. Emergency lights flashed, turning the concrete hallways blood red. Caldwell arrived just as officers rushed Leon out of his cell, cuffs locked behind his back, 2 guards gripping each arm. What's happening? Caldwell demanded. The warden, red-faced and panicked, shouted over the alarms. Evacuation protocol. Someone triggered a diversion. We have to move high-risk inmates first. Leon tilted his head toward Caldwell. This isn't an evacuation. This is an extraction. Caldwell felt his pulse spike. Extraction for who? Leon's eyes burned with intensity. For me. Or for my corpse. Depends who gets here first. Before Caldwell could respond, a second alarm split through the prison. A deeper tone, signaling a breach. Officers began shouting. Radios crackled with frantic voices. Car approaching Southgate. Unauthorized vehicle. Armed. Static. Caldwell realized the truth with crushing clarity. Someone powerful was cleaning up loose ends tonight. If Leon lived, he could expose them. If he died, the truth died with him. Caldwell grabbed Leon's arm. Where's the safest place in this prison? Leon almost laughed. There is no safe place in Goulburn Supermax. But then his eyes narrowed at the far end of the corridor. The secure transport tunnel leading to the underground intake garage. That, Leon said, is the only route they won't expect us to take. Too many cameras. Too much visibility. Caldwell yanked the warden's master key from an emergency panel and unlocked Leon's restraints. The guards protested, but Caldwell barked. If he dies, this entire investigation dies with him. The hallway shook as something exploded near the outer fence. They ran. Down the concrete steps. Past the echoing cells. Past the blinding red strobes. The entire prison felt like a collapsing lung. Tight, suffocating. Seconds from disaster. When they burst into the underground transport bay, Caldwell saw a black SUV ramming the inner gate. Reinforced. Professional. This wasn't an inmate rescue. It was an execution squad. Leon stepped behind a steel pillar as gunfire erupted. Sparks sprayed across the floor. Caldwell dove beside him. You said this wasn't your operation. Caldwell shouted. Leon replied, voice steady. I said I didn't build the machine. I never said the machine didn't want me dead. Caldwell made a decision he'd never imagined making in his life. He shoved the envelope of incriminating photos into Leon's hands. Get out of here, he said. Leon stared at him. Why help me? Because the truth matters more than the myth. Leon nodded once, an unspoken pact in the chaos. Caldwell opened the side door and triggered the emergency shutter. The SUV rammed forward just as the steel barrier crashed down, blocking the attackers for a few precious seconds. Leon slipped through the service exit and disappeared into the smoke. Caldwell turned back toward the bay, weapon drawn, knowing he might not walk out. By morning, the news spread. A mysterious attack at Goulburn Supermax. Several injured officers. A massive breach attempt. And one inmate missing. Leon Mercer. Officials claimed he escaped in the chaos. Caldwell said nothing. Because 3 weeks later, an anonymous package arrived at a major newsroom in Sydney. Inside it were the photographs. All of them. And a short note. You locked up the wrong man. Now the real story begins. The legend of Leon Mercer had just stepped out of his cell and into history. And the world wasn't ready. If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one, hit subscribe so you don't miss it.